Hey guys, what's going on? It's Jordan. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for stopping by. So today you clicked on this video. It was because you wanted to see an honest review of this lens right here. This is the 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens from Canon. Comes with pretty much all the DSLR bundles that you buy. So let's go ahead and get into this. Just a quick disclaimer. I've already kind of made a review about this, but we're going to go ahead and update that one because I think that the way that I do things now is a lot better. So let's go ahead and dive into this. First, starting off with the price. So I found this for $199 on B&H Photo and Canon's website. I did find a couple of different versions. I believe there was this one, which is the 18 to 55 millimeter EFS2 IS lens. And then there's another one that has like a silver or a white band around it down here where the numbers for the focal ranges line up. So this lens is advertised at 7.1 ounces or 200 grams. Now I went ahead and I threw this on a postal scale, so it weighed with both the front and rear lens caps 7.8 ounces, and without the lens caps, either the front or the rear, basically attached to a camera, weighs 7 ounces by itself. Now, I do want to point out that this lens does have some weird aperture ranges and some other things going on with it. So first and foremost, at 18 millimeters, you get an f3.5 at the widest down to an f22. When you zoom into a 24 millimeter, you get an f4 to an f25. At 35 millimeters, you get an f4.5 to an f29. And then at 55 millimeters, all the way at the very end of the focal range, you get an f5.6 to an f36. Now, I do want to make this very clear and apparent. This lens is specifically designed for APS-C or crop sensor cameras. So like your Canon Rebel T7s or your Canon SL3 or SL2, your Canon T100s, what have you. Basically any crop sensor or APS-C sized sensor from Canon is going to utilize this the absolute best. Now I can adapt this to my Canon ES-RP with the EF to RF mount adapter, and it does still work. The focal range is from 28.8 to 88 millimeters, so just keep that in mind. Now, I do want to touch on the image stabilization with this lens, particularly because I think that is a very underrated part of this lens. The image stabilization works well as it should. Now, I have no issues with it. I enjoy using this lens with an extension tube, so I have the Canon EF25-2 extension tube. It basically just takes this lens and it moves it 25 millimeters away from the sensor, giving it a much closer focusing distance than as advertised. So like I said, I do use this for macro photography and I generally shoot handheld with that setup. So with this kit lens, with the EF25 extension tube, so the image stabilization works well enough that I actually don't need to worry about shooting at a slower shutter speed. So I can shoot roughly about 1/50th of a second with the macro extension tube on there, and I don't really have any issues. So just keep that into consideration as well. So the image stabilization, like I said, it does work pretty well. So I'm going to go ahead and pop some video up here right now. So this is going to be with the image stabilization off handheld at like 55 millimeters, I believe it was. And then this is with the image stabilization turned back on. As you can see, the image stabilization works pretty well. And if you're shooting handheld, maybe you're doing like a handheld video for somebody, shooting your first music video with a Canon Rebel T7, what have you, I think that the image stabilization on this, for what it does, will get you by. Now, I do want to talk a little bit about the construction of this lens. This is an EFS lens, so these are designed specifically for APS-C style cameras. So like your Canon Rebel T7, your Canon Rebel SL3, your Canon T100, T50, 3, 5i, T6i, T7i, T8i. You can use this lens specifically for all those. You can also adapt it to a mirrorless, like a full frame mirrorless, or maybe like an APS-C mirrorless camera with an adapter, so just keep that into consideration. Now, I do want to also touch on the autofocus with this lens. So it does have a switch on the side for autofocus. For video, it is noisy, and I'm going to say that right now. So if you planned on using this lens for video, and let's say that you needed to absolutely use the audio from in camera, now A little bit of a side note, if you're using like a Canon Rebel T7 or a T6, one that doesn't have continuous autofocus, you're probably not going to notice that. But do keep in mind if you have a camera that does have continuous autofocus, like let's say Canon Rebel SL2 or a Canon Rebel SL3. I believe the Canon T7i or the T8i, maybe even the T6i, also have continuous autofocus, so keep that in mind. If you are using something that does have a continuous autofocus, like even if I adapted this to my Canon EOS RP, which has continuous autofocus for video, if I absolutely had to use the audio that was in this camera with this lens attached using the autofocus, you would probably definitely notice that little autofocusing noise. So I'm going to go ahead and just throw a little bit of video up here for you real quick.
Pile of shape. Sort of water, like a sponge. 15 minutes to fill up, and he's off. Flying home, fully laden with water.
And if you're using the audio from the camera internally, you'll notice it, no doubt. Unless your subject isn't moving a whole lot. And so maybe if you're doing a talking headshot and you're not moving back and forth, up and around, I think that you probably could get away with just keeping this tacked on for the continuous autofocus. Now, the Canon Rebel series like the T7 and the T6, T5, some of the older just regular DSLRs that don't have flip screens and stuff. So for photography, the autofocus works the way that you would expect and the way that it should, although it is a little bit slow to lock onto your subject well. In the autofocus for photography, it does what it needs to do. So even with the APS-C cameras that have like the 9-point autofocusing system, like the Canon Rebel T7, basically uses like the little center square or whatever square that you choose, and then it basically just uses that for autofocus. I honestly, if you don't absolutely need to use autofocus, I think you probably get away with just using manual focus. So just take that into consideration. Now, the construction of this body is entirely made of plastic. I don't see any metal on this at all, besides maybe where the contacts contact the body to give the information to the camera. Maybe some stuff on the inside of this could be a little bit metal, but I'm not 100% sure without taking it apart. But I would assume that maybe just some small aluminum parts inside of there. But other than that, the entire construction is plastic. It is a pretty sturdy plastic. I feel that you could probably drop this and not really break it in half. You might crack the plastic, but I'm not really going to take that chance right now. So, like I did mention, this is designed specifically for APS-C bodies. The focal range, like I mentioned earlier, is 28.8 millimeters all the way out to 88 millimeters. It does have 6 rounded blades for the aperture blades. It does have autofocus. It does have image stabilization. And like I mentioned, it is an entirely all plastic body. This also does not have any weather sealing on it at all. And just in case you were wondering, it takes a 58 millimeter filter. Now I want to go ahead and touch on image quality. So close focusing distance is 9.8 inches or 0.25 meters as advertised from Canon, but I was utilizing a tripod and a measuring tape. I got exactly 9.25 inches of close focusing distance from the marked sensor plane on my camera body, from the tape measure to my testing card. So it was exactly 9.25 inch. So probably roughly what they quoted on the internet from Canon. So I do want to let you guys know that all of these images that I am about to show you were shot without any in-camera lens corrections on, and all of the lens corrections turned off in Lightroom. So let's go ahead and dive into this, starting off with 18 millimeters at an f3.5. So you definitely notice softness in the corners. There is a pretty good center sharpness from this lens. You do also notice barrel distortion. There's a slight hint of purple color fringing and a very good vignette. Stopping down the lens to f7.1, you notice the softness in the corners and the vignette start to disappear. By about f14 at 18 millimeters, the vignette is completely gone, and the lens has good center sharpness throughout all the apertures that I tested. So Center sharpness at 18 millimeters, whether it's from f3.5 all the way up to f22, the center sharpness was good. You did notice the corner sharpness to get a little bit better at around f7.1. And then by about f14, you notice that that vignette starts to disappear. Now zooming into 24 millimeters at an f4, you do still notice that this does have a barrel distortion and a heavy vignette with corner sharpness. When you stop this lens down to about f9 at 24 millimeters, you notice that the vignette is virtually gone. And by about f18, softness due to diffraction kicks back in. Now zooming into a 35 millimeter at an f4.5, you really notice that there is no barrel distortion at 35 millimeters on this lens, so there is maybe a slight pincushion distortion starting to happen. There is still a vignette, and the image is sharp all around at 35 millimeters. Stopping the lens down to an f7.1 at 35 millimeters, the vignette is virtually gone by this time, and at f22, softness due to diffraction starts to kick back in at 35 millimeters. So I'm not necessarily sure, and I'm thinking that maybe because this has a varying aperture through each zoom or each focal range, that possibly this lens's diffraction starts to kick in at different apertures, mostly because it doesn't stop at an f22 for each focal range. So I'm not necessarily 100% sure, but at 35 millimeters with this lens at an f22 is when the diffraction starts to kick back in and soften the image. Now zooming in to 55 millimeters at an f5.6, you do still have a vignette. You do have slight color fringing, but the image overall is sharp. Stopping down to f8, you notice that the vignette is virtually gone, and at f18, softness due to diffraction kicks back in at 55 millimeters. Like I said, I'm not really 100% sure why, but sometimes this lens's diffraction kicks back in at certain apertures. Not really 100% sure, but just take it as it is. And my final thoughts on this lens. I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. I think that this lens catches a bad rap for all the wrong reasons. And yes, I'm fully aware of the aperture range being not all that great. But as a beginning photography lens and a good backup video lens, this will get the job done. It has a decent focal range from 28.8 to 88 millimeters with built-in image stabilization that does what you need it to do. And you really can't go wrong with having this lens as a throw-around backpack lens. I still think that this is a really underrated lens for what it is. I know it catches a lot of slack and most people kind of hate this lens, but I think the 18 to 55 millimeter kit lens is by far an underdog in every photographer's backpack. Whether you're professional or just beginning, don't let anybody discourage you from using it, because at the end of the day, it still produces a pretty good image. It still does what you need it to do for video, and I think it works. If you guys like this video, go ahead, give it a thumbs up, give it a like. If you didn't like this video, also give it a thumbs up. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit all the buttons. I'm Jordan, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.